Hey everyone, welcome back to Bitches in Business. This is episode 202. We are joined today by Pam Aungst of Stealth Search and Analytics, as well as Pam Ann Marketing. We're so excited to have her. I am Nikki, and that is Bekah, and our guest is Pam. Pam, why don't you give us a little info about yourself, introduce yourself.
Sure. So, like I said, I'm Pam Aungst of Pam Ann Marketing and Stealth and Search and Analytics. I am a total SEO nerd amongst other types of nerdery. And so, what we do for clients is SEO, PPC, and analytics. Through Pam Ann Marketing, we work directly with clients on taking their strategies to the next level for both search and analytics. And through Stealth, we work under the radar of other agencies on a private label basis, other marketing agencies that want to add those services to their capabilities without hiring for them in-house.
And we know Pam through our coach, Dave, who we've mentioned many times on this before because we've used his advice or we've just talked about other people we know through Dave. And so I guess he introduced us a few months back, and haven't had the pleasure of working together professionally yet, but we've definitely been pitching your services and we've talked about working together. So we hope to do that sometime soon. But for sure, we have learned from you. We were on your webinar a couple weeks ago, and watching some of your videos and webinars, you are very much a wealth of information about SEO, which is great because I think you make it accessible and interesting, especially for us as marketers. We know a lot of things, but that's one area that I do not feel very knowledgeable in, and it's something that you are clearly an expert in. So appreciate all the work you do to educate us and others.
Well, thank you. And speaking of webinars and speaking of Coach Dave, we did a recent webinar with him as well that came out great. It was about hiring, everything he's taught us about hiring tips, how to find, attract, hire, and retain the right talent, how to do interviews to really dig into somebody's values. And it was a great discussion if anyone's interested in that kind of a thing.
We will put the information in our show notes or our YouTube notes of this so that we can get to that webinar. And then if you're finding this some other way, if you just go to methodagency.com/bitchesinbusiness, you can find links to these videos and you'll be able to find where those links are. Great.
So one of the reasons, or the mission of Bitches in Business, is for women to get together and discuss business, obviously. But one of the things we love to discuss is why you started your own business. What was really that catalyst for you to leave? I guess we haven't talked about this. So leave, I assume, a corporate world to start your own business. What's the story there?
Yeah, sure. So I was in-house, not at a huge corporation, but I was in-house working for internally. I was an e-commerce manager for 2 different companies in-house before starting my own agency. And at the second company, I was doing my in-house e-commerce manager stuff. And as part of that, I was running the social media for that company. And in doing that, I would participate in Twitter chats about marketing in that industry with other people on Twitter who were also in the marketing world in that same industry. And so I got to know these people through Twitter, but it was kind of like with real world networking, you see people, the same people enough times, you just start to get to know them, you start to like them, you start to trust them. And so through doing the social media marketing for this company that I was working in-house for, I met amazing marketers from across the country, across the globe. And we just really got to know each other really well. And to the point where we trusted each other enough to refer business to each other, except I didn't have a business, but people started referring business to me anyway. So I started to get requests for these consulting projects to do on the side of my day job. And I was like, sure, why not? Extra money? I can, okay. I'm not going to say no to that. And even my boss asked me to help. His brother had an electrical company or something. And he's like, can you help? You know a lot about this. Can you help get them some web traffic too? And I'd also gotten a couple of interviews, one of which was an internet retailer magazine, which was like, could have knocked me over with a feather when they wanted to talk to me. So that was really cool. And so with the exposure of the interviews and the relationships I was building on Twitter, I just started to get requests for projects and helping people with SEO, a variety of things, but that's a lot of SEO and AdWords. I guess it just kind of established a reputation for being good at that kind of stuff in all my Twitter networking. So I started to get those requests, and I was like, sure, I'll do this. And as I got more and more, and I got up to the point of like 10 clients on my side gig, I was like, this is not a side gig anymore. This is like a full-time thing. I basically have 2 full-time jobs, so something's got to give. And I found a strategic opportunity to pitch the idea to my employer to become a client instead. I was basically decided I was leaving either way, but I figured it didn't hurt to ask and to pitch it, and I found a uniquely strategic opportunity with what was going on in there to pitch that idea that I leave the company but stay on as a consultant, and they went for it. So I was lucky in that I had a little bit of a financial springboard, and them being my first like decent sized retainer client to go along with the other small things I was getting myself. And so I was going to do it either way, but I got fortunate and they went for it, and it made it easier to transition. And yeah, here I am. It was 7 years ago that I started doing projects on the side and started kind of creating my company, and about 6 years ago that I went full time with it.
Cool. That's awesome. And when did you feel like, because you started your company, so about 6 years ago, you have other people you work with. Do you have employees or do you have contractors? How does that work in your business? When did that change?
Yeah, so I had a part-time subcontractor almost right away when I started out, and it stayed that way for a couple of years. And then I forget exactly what year it was, but a couple of years in, I realized I had to hire my first full-time employee. And so I did that probably about halfway through. And now I have 3 full-time employees. At times we've had 4. At the moment we have 3, and 2 part-time people that are, I guess, technically subcontractors, but they operate as internal team members as well.
Cool. That's exciting. Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, it's definitely a big stepping stone to move up to having real employees.
Right.
It's so cool. I was driving in the office today, and I was our team was having a web meeting with a client, and I didn't really plan to be in the car at that time, but it turned out I had to be. So I was on the phone just listening in my team do their thing, and they were screen sharing reports, they were explaining things to the clients, and everything was going beautifully, and I'm just sitting there like doing nothing except driving. And it was just so cool. I was so proud to just sit back and kind of listen to them handle everything so confidently on their own, and it was just a really good feeling.
That's cool. How do you spend your time? Are you doing the SEO? Are you doing actual execution of projects and strategies now? Or are you doing business development? Tell us about what you do.
Yeah, I do a lot of things. I do a lot of business development. I'm the only person that does sales, networking, putting us out there. I do a lot of speaking gigs and traveling for speaking gigs. So that's a big bulk of the time. I do, though, stay involved in the projects. I like to be kind of like the chief strategist, I guess, because the people that I hired have individual areas of expertise, even within SEO. Like one of them is more about technical SEO, the other's more about the content and the keywords, and then there's someone else for AdWords and a project manager. So I like to just be involved to make sure that all the strategies are coming together cohesively, and usually I brought the client in from my initial business development efforts, and so I like to maintain the relationship with the client, and I do like to put eyes on at least the big complex things that are going out. If we did an audit that was particularly challenging or something, I like to make sure I look at it before it goes out, just QA, make sure everything looks up to par and we didn't miss anything, just kind of polishing. I guess you would say when it comes to project work, a lot of what I do is polishing up things before they're going out, just adding that extra nice finishing touch. And or if there's a particularly complex issue, I've been at this a lot of years now, so if you count my in-house time before the time that I've had my own company, I mean, it's really been like 13 years I've been working on this stuff. So I've seen a lot of different weird situations and glitchy things. And so a lot of times I will actually dig in and do project work and do an audit or something on something that's just like really weird and odd, and maybe I might have seen something before. And so so project work, business development work, speaking, marketing, client relationships, and all of the other usual lovely business owner hats we get to wear, right. Looking over the numbers. I have someone who does my bookkeeping, but like, looking at the high level financial reports and forecasting and taxes most recently. Yeah. All that fun stuff too.
We survived tax day. Yay.
Yay,
Well,
we
I don't
got
know
to
if you
do
did. We extended our taxes, so we will survive tax day.
There you go. I didn't extend. I bit the bullet, just took care of it now and cried as that very large check went out.
Right. I saw a bunch of people posting on Sunday night and Monday about, oh, doing my taxes, la la la. And I was like, even though I'm going to be writing a huge check, I'm just really glad there's someone else at the wheel that knows what they're doing. And I just kind of have to overall understand it.
Right. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about being a woman in business. We talk a lot about that on this show. Do you have any takeaways that you can give to other women who might be listening to this, things that you've learned over the years, like pluses, minuses?
Sure. Well, I think that I've dealt with not only being a woman in business, but also two other challenging angles, which are being a woman in tech specifically, and also being a young person. I won't even say young woman, just being a young person. When I started my company, I was in my late 20s. So I feel like there's been a shift along the way with how I was treated. I was taken much less seriously. So it was kind of a trifecta, I guess, of like simply being a woman in business, being a woman in tech, and being young. I really felt like back when I first started my company, I had to fight really hard to prove that I knew what I was talking about, that I had actual experience, that I understood business. I feel like there was a lot more people back in the day that kind of, I don't know if I want to say talked down to me, but like dealt with a lot more mansplaining in the past than I deal with now.
And now it has a popular name.
Yes, it didn't then, but that's a
Right.
good word for it. I wouldn't say I was being talked down to as in like disrespected, but that's a great word for it because that's what it was.
Right.
And I think it's just, things have evolved a bit. So there's a lot more female entrepreneurs out in the world in business for themselves now. So I think that's helped reduce that. And just awareness has helped reduce that. But also I haven't gotten older. I see young men in this business deal with the same thing, some of the same things that I dealt with as a young woman in the business. Was just people don't take you seriously when you're young. They don't think you have a lot of experience, that you really know how the business world works. So I think now that I've gotten a bit older, some of that has eased up also. And just having simply more time behind the wheel when people realize we've been in business for 6-7 years, they take us a lot more seriously. I don't have to do much, explaining about how I know what I know. Like they kind of trust that I know. So there's a variety of factors in how it's evolved and changed. But I'd say the one that persists the most is the women in tech angle. I still get people that just make assumptions that they're like, either like oddly surprised or oddly impressed, or they say something, they mean it as a compliment, but it's kind of a left-handed compliment. Like, wow, you know how code works? Like, that's so cool. Like, they mean it as a compliment, but it's kind of left-handed in that, like, yeah, like if I obviously assumed that I, as a woman, would not be capable of understanding. But so I still get a little bit of that, but also just the assumption that I think since there are many more female entrepreneurs out there now, that's less of a surprise that I'm a female entrepreneur. But there's an assumption that since I'm in tech, I'm just a female entrepreneur who wrangles a team of tech guys. I've had people directly ask me, like, so how many guys do you have working for you? How many SEO guys do you have working for you? I'm like, well, actually, we're almost all girls. And I'm really proud of that.
That's awesome.
That just kind of organically happened. I didn't set out to be a team of almost all women. But I guess, I don't know, I've attracted that as a female business owner, and vice versa. I guess we're not supposed to have preferences in hiring, of course, but subconsciously, perhaps.
Right. I think it's a natural.
Happened to us too.
Yeah. Even our clients tend to be female-led companies. I mean, it just works a lot better. That's how we've found.
Right. And I've had clients tell us that they selected us because we're female-owned, led, and mostly made up of female team.
I was about to agree with you about how I feel like it took me until like around 30 or early 30s till I got taken seriously. And as I was going to say that, my cat jumped on the desk and was about to get into the shot. And I realized, here I am, this mature entrepreneur. See, there's a cat tail on the shot right now. A business leader with a cat on the cover.
I still take you seriously.
Thank you.
You're a human.
That's funny timing, though, how that worked out.
Instead of mansplaining, will you Pam-splain SEO to us?
I love that word.
Because
Why have I never thought of that before?
Pam-splain. I feel like people, especially even us, like, what is SEO? Like, why does my business need SEO? Why is it important? I think a lot of people still don't understand it. Pam-splain now.
Thank you for bestowing that term upon me. I'm going to use that. That's excellent. I can't believe I haven't thought of that before. Okay, so the Pam-splanation for SEO is that I always say it's the art and science of influencing search engines to rank your content higher. That's as simple as I can make it. And I emphasize that it's both an art and a science, and that it's a matter of influencing. So there's no direct control over it, and Google doesn't give out their full secret sauce. And I reference Google a lot. I mean, all search engines, but everyone is most aware of Google. So Google and search engines, they don't give out their secret sauce of how their algorithms work specifically. But even if they did, no single human brain could comprehend all of that. That's just hundreds of thousands of lines of code layered on top of each other, if this, then that statement. So the long and short of it is that we do know some things that Google wants you to do, and there's an art and a science to getting those things implemented on your website effectively so as not to alienate your human users. So there are things you can do, and that's basically how we break down what SEO is and how we help people with it. Is we just show them what we do know about how this works and what Google and other search engines want to see you doing with your website, and working with them to implement those things to influence their position in the results.
The one thing that they do seem to communicate is what they don't want, right? So
right.
So they may not be telling us how the algorithm works, but they do tend to tell you things where you can kind of infer. Obviously, that's how you figure out what to do, right? Like, well, we can't do this, so therefore we have to do this.
Right. They do give a lot of specific direction about what they don't want you to do, which is helpful. But lately, they've actually gotten better at giving some more specific direction as to what they do want you to do, and giving us a little bit of advanced heads up, which they didn't do in the past. They would just change things, and then we would have to scramble and figure it out. But so now, they've announced that in July, they're going to start taking page speed into account as one of those influential factors for rankings on mobile. Right now, they do look at that on desktop, but they're going to take it into account on mobile, which is more than 50% of searches. So that's going to be a big deal. And they actually gave us an advance heads up about that, which is nice. Although we kind of knew they were going in that direction for a while now. We as an SEO agency that needs to keep up on every little thing in this world, we keep an eye on the patents that they apply for. So they don't give out their full secret sauce, but they do need to patent individual pieces of their intellectual property and their algorithm. So we keep an eye on that to see where they're not only keep up with, but see where they're gonna go. So it wasn't really a surprise to us, but we still appreciate the advance notice on when exactly they're going to make the change.
Right. Is there somebody at Google who does know? I know you just said that the algorithm is too complicated for any human to understand, but are there people that work there, and obviously we're talking about Google, but any of them, but Google mostly, that know that do actually understand and know the secrets? I mean, I know obviously there's got to be teams that understand pieces, but is there a person or a small group of people who kind of know everything?
Well, they certainly pick certain people to be their spokesperson about all angles of it. But it does seem obviously it's such an enormous organization with such an enormous complex piece of technology. Most people are just on a certain team. So some are on the web spam team, and they know a lot about the link building penalties and all of that. They know the more in-depth information that's not public about that part. And they probably have a good understanding of all the other parts, but then someone else might know more about the technical. But they do kind of handpick these public-facing specialists, Garyalists, and a couple other. There used to be Matt Cutts was the main one. He's no longer.
The videos.
He did all the videos and stuff. So, but still, even then, they'll openly say I don't know, Or it's funny the way they answer their questions as if they're like on a, witness stand or in some kind of a legal disposition or deposition,
PR is
whatever that word is.
listening.
Yes, exactly. But you can kind of tell, like, they'll either say, like, honestly, I don't know. And I think they truly don't know. Or if it's something they do know, but they're not allowed to say, they'll just kind of divert sneakily the question in a way. It's kind of fun to watch sometimes, watch them squirm.
So this is jumping ahead in our list of questions, but I think it's important for kind of the one before. Does every business need SEO? I mean, large, small, who doesn't? Who does?
Sure. So does every business need SEO? No. There's obviously plenty of businesses out there that thrive just fine without it. I think it can help. It doesn't hurt to work on. It can add to any business's marketing efforts, even if they don't technically need it. But who is it a best fit for? That's probably for companies that can put a lot of effort into generating content on their website. And so this doesn't really speak to the nature of the company per se, but more to the resources that they have, or how they attract people to their business. So like, I attract people to us by putting myself out there as an expert and sharing expertise and creating thought leadership. And that works for us, whether I do it online or whether I do it offline, just at seminars and workshops and conferences and whatnot. That's what works for us. So I think any type of business where that thought leadership angle really works for them, even if it's offline, that can be ported over to online. And it requires more than just SEO, but that's a certain type of business where SEO is like a really great fit. And I think if anyone's in a business like that and they're only doing it offline or only partially doing it online, like the SEO there is probably a big missed opportunity if it's not being taken advantage of.
Yeah, I was thinking of like, this is a funny kind of story. After I watched that video you were referencing about mobile speed that you did a couple months ago when Google had announced it, I went through and I checked a lot of the websites for our clients, our own website, and was horrified about how slow all of them were. But one in particular of a client that I have that was very slow. I emailed the web company and I said, hey, this is coming out. Like, I was hoping that they were already on top of it. Of course they weren't, because probably a lot of companies aren't. But I said, what can we do? This is really slow. Like, the websites just something has to happen. And so then their response back was, we did a search, it is fairly slow. There's a few things we can do, but just so you know, like, Apple only got a 70% out of 100 with this page speed search. And I was just like, I don't care. This is in Apple. Like, and so that brings up this point, like, is Apple actively doing, Apple.com, their store, actively doing SEO? Or they don't need to, because they are the place to go for an iPhone. And so therefore, of course, you have, like, I guess I don't.
Yeah, SEO, that's a very common kind of objection of sorts. And SEO kind of, like, are big companies like that doing SEO? They may or may not be. To some degree, SEO happens to them. They don't necessarily need to try too hard, because there's three, I always talk about three categories of SEO. There's technical, content, and off-page. Technical things like making sure you have search engine friendly code and that the website loads fast. Those are all technical things. The content is what keywords you use, where and how you use them, and all of that. And the off page is the building authority through having other reputable, relevant websites linking to you, using social media and influencer marketing strategies and PR to get your brand out there, make sure your brand is being talked about. So if you think of it like a point system, it doesn't actually really work this way, but if you think of it like a point system, and you have to get a total number of points in all three categories in order to come up at the top, I think some of these brands are just getting the bulk of their points in that off-page category, in that PR brand building category. And they don't have to worry as much about the technical and the keywords, versus smaller businesses. They don't have that monstrous amount of brand authority out there and other websites linking to them. They have to work harder in those other two categories to kind of get the points that they need.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Nikki and I run a pop culture website, and we've noticed with the things that we're not going to get ranked tomorrow by talking about the new Marvel movie coming out, next week. Like, it's just not going to happen. We're not big enough. But when we've really zeroed in on like a small kind of really, really fandom-y, like, niche topic, and we've had a great popular article that's gotten a lot of shares. We still, to this day, I mean, one of our most popular topics ever is about this celebrities, like, hair. And when people Google this person's name, like this article that we wrote years ago comes up, and it's kind of because it's so niche, I think, and nobody else was really talking about it, but then he became very popular. It's really helped. So it's been interesting just to watch that play out organically. We are basically the Apple of the celebrity's hair.
Right, right. Yeah, the competitive, the level of competitiveness in that target niche or industry or topic or whatever is a big factor as well. It's a lot easier to rank for something nichey. Like we have some B2B manufacturing clients that make like a widget that's part of another widget that goes into a machine that's only used for a certain industry. And like, that's so much easier than trying to get someone to rank for like Nike sneakers or something.
Right.
It's a big factor as well.
Now, what if there is an SEO newbie out there listening and they are interested after they finish this video, they want to go try some things. What are like the easy, 101 primer level SEO tactics that someone should try out?
Or that they can do themselves, right?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of the technical stuff is hard to do yourself. Although you can, if you're building your own website, which is totally doable these days, you can make sure that you're using an SEO friendly platform and that you have a mobile responsive version and that you can do some things to make sure your website loads fast, like simply selecting a good hosting company. The shared cheapest option for shared hosting might not be, definitely isn't the fastest loading thing out there. Let me rephrase as I go here. Those cheap plans, they cram tens of thousands of websites onto a single server. So, I mean, you can just look up reviews about which hosting options are faster and maybe spend a few more dollars. And it doesn't have to be a ton of money, but you can be conscientious of speed without being a coder or a developer. So you can make sure you have a fast host, you have a mobile-friendly website on a SEO-friendly CMS like WordPress. We're huge fans and advocates of WordPress. So if you have a choice of what to build your own website in, if you're going to do that, definitely check out WordPress. And so you can take care of all those kind of things in the technical arena of SEO, even without being a techie or a coder. And then on the content front, anyone can write content. So writing a blog article on your website is, doing it consistently helps the most, but any little bit that you can do, if you can only handle one blog article a month, fine, it's better than nothing. Google likes content, they like words. So and you can pay attention to your keywords, and you don't need fancy keyword research tools for this. You can just go to Google and start typing in a topic and see what the search suggests that shows the rest of the phrase is to figure out exactly what wording people are using to talk about your topic, and use that wording naturally. Don't stuff it in, but naturally work in that wording into articles where you demonstrate your expertise and put them up on your website. Pretty much anyone can do that. And then in the third category for off page, just share your articles on social and do what you can to build a social following. My whole business spurred off of Twitter, just chatting with people on Twitter. Everyone jokes about like, oh, I don't care about what you had for breakfast. Yeah, well, if you think about how you get to know people in real life, even at business networking events, you're not just talking business. You're talking about, oh, hey, how many kids do you have? Where'd you go on vacation? What'd you have for breakfast? Like, you do have to talk about what you had for breakfast to get to know people or things like that. So you can do what you can on social media to get people to know you, so that when you put that content out there, they like it, they share it, they retweet it, and you get that brand building.
You're a human.
Yeah. People forget that you can be human on a computer.
Business hate. Yeah, maybe it's just us, the question that we hate. But if there's someone out there that realizes, hey, maybe we need to get some SEO services happening, what is a ballpark budget that they should start thinking about earmarking?
Sure. So it's different based on where you're at in your SEO journey. So you referenced a brand new company, but just, different. If a brand new company could probably invest a smaller amount to get some initial best practice things in place, as opposed to a company that's a bit more established and has gotten the basics in place, and now they need to really invest to take it to the next level. So that can look like two totally different things. But on the smaller end, I mean, you could invest a couple $100s in a few hours of training And that could be it. If you are pretty savvy with your own website or your own writing, and you just want to know some more nuanced information about how to work in keywords or how to tweak your website's plugins and speed settings and whatnot, you can just invest a few $100s and get training. Or if you're talking about outsourcing and getting help with actual services, any company that's charging a few $100s a month is probably a scam. It could be black hat SEO, where I'm sure that's the same in your world too. And in our world, it can actually be harmful in that, like, it could be black hat tactics that will actually get you banned from Google. So black hat meaning they're doing things that break Google's rules, are against Google's terms of service. That may work kind of quickly until you get caught, and then you get kicked out of Google and you have to pay to have undone what you paid to have done, and it's horrible. So in the cheap services, you have to watch out for that all the time, cheap or not cheap, but cheap meaning in the few $100 a month range. You really got to watch out for black hat tactics, even gray hat tactics that kind of dance around the edge of what's okay. Or what one of our clients coined the term no hat. They just gave them the money and they didn't do anything. So that can definitely happen too. So a reputable agency will be at least 4 figures a month. It'll be at least $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 a month in order to get real help from real experts who have built a real team with real process around doing this for real.
Lots of reals there.
Lots of real.
Okay, well, that's helpful. I mean, that's helpful just because you do see. I mean, we get emails, obviously you can tell when they're like overseas and they're spammy. Not that to say that there's probably not reputable companies overseas, but like when their English is pretty broken, I don't know if I necessarily want them. I am assuming that's what they're doing, right? They're stuffing links and whatever the old tactics you used to hear about, right? Back when I feel like we all just started working on the internet, like was actual real tactics, right? You would just get a bunch of links in other places. You get a bunch of keywords stuffed in your header code. That seems like what they're still doing. I have to assume that's what they're charging.
Yes, sadly, we still see a lot of it, and even more sadly, it does kind of still work to a degree for a time. But then Google has gotten a lot better at catching it. And then one of the worst things that can happen to a website owner in SEO is being kicked out. I say kicked out of Google. The technical term would be having a manual action applied to your site, a penalty, where they're like, we don't like what you're doing, get out of Google. And you can apply to, it's called a reconsideration request. You can apply to be reconsidered, to be let back into Google if you jump through a lot of hoops to clean up what you had done. And it is just horrible. Like I said, the people pay to have something undone that they paid to have done. And then sometimes if you did something like against the rules, like buying links, a lot of the website owners of the fake websites that exist only to sell these links will hold you ransom to get the link removed. So Google's telling you that you have to get those links off the internet, and the person who you paid to have them placed will charge you a ransom fee per link to remove it. It's terrible, terrible. Just don't do that. If I can, like, you ask for tips for what people can do, like if I could tell you what not to do, what to never, ever, ever do, the one main big thing to never, ever, ever do is buy links. Don't buy links, and don't pay a consultant who's going to buy links for you. Just don't.
Okay, that
sounds awful.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I know a company that I don't think that they honestly did anything wrong. Maybe a consultant or something did. They're a huge company. They're owned by like a Fortune 500 company, and it took them months to notice, but they noticed their traffic was dying when they're a huge manufacturer, and they just started noticing, and they dug in, and they had gotten banned from Google, and it was hundreds of thousands of dollars later to get and years. I think it took them at least 2 years to start appearing back in a decent position in searches, and it's just insane. I had no idea that was a thing.
Yeah, and they don't discriminate. They don't care if you have big pockets or not. Like Pinterest was one of the most recent ones that got hit with an algorithm change. I'm not sure that it was a penalty specifically, but their traffic just tanked
Yeah.
because Google didn't like what they were doing, and they tweaked their algorithm to filter it out, and millions and millions and millions of page views rankings just gone. Within a matter of days. JCPenney was specifically penalized. That's one of the kind of famous all-time big ones.
And why did
Google's even penalized its own properties. I forget the example of which one it was, but there was a site that was it was a Google-owned site that
YouTube needs to stop it.
got hit by, it wasn't YouTube, but yeah, it was something like that. I forget what it was. And
What did
they
JCPenney do? Do you remember?
I don't remember specifically.
I
This was years ago now. It was just something, I forget if it was content related and keyword stuffing or if it was link related, but
yeah, I vaguely remember hearing about that or reading it years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago now. So they've been at it for a while, and they just constantly refine their ability to catch you breaking the rules. So one of the smartest ways you can approach SEO is the slow and steady wins the race, play by the rules approach. It will take longer. It will require a lot of patience. But if you do it right all along, you're never going to have to deal with any of those disastrous cleanup penalty things. You won't have to shudder at the word algorithm update. It won't matter if you play. The algorithm updates are designed for two things: one, to make the experience better for users, and two, to catch people who are breaking the rules. So if you don't break the rules, you don't have to worry about at least half the reason that they do those updates.
Right.
You said slow and steady, and I was like, that's exactly the same in social media and like digital marketing. Like, it's crazy how these rules are just the same across the board, and people are like, how can I go viral? Like they want the big thing, but it's like, slow and steady, trust me.
How many times a day do you get asked that? I can't even imagine.
Or just
Not
even
so much
talking
anymore, thank God. But just people who want a shot in the arm in a week, and you're like, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll take meetings sometimes with other kind of agencies that are like either selling services that we could white label or just have these things that we're like, we want to understand what they do because they're selling something that we don't think is real. So we recently had a conversation with someone who promises all this growth. They promise like, you're going to get 100 new social media followers every day, and they're real people. They're not like, we're not buying them. I'm like, that's not possible.
Right.
And so it's just so interesting. We want to know what's out there because these people are going to our clients, right? And so the same thing. Like, you want to get a lot of social media followers, have really good social media, post all the time. Like, it's annoying. I'm sorry that that's the answer, but that is the answer.
Yeah, definitely. I always try to compare the online world to the offline world, and it's like the same thing as the person who shows up at a networking event for the very first time and they expect to just get like a ton of sales out of that. Right. No, you need to coming back to the same networking group over and over, and let people know, like, and trust you first.
Ask them about their kids and their breakfast.
Yes, exactly. So people bond over. People like me because I like heavy metal. It's just it's kind of a weird thing that I didn't really want to put out there at first, but then I realized like I bonded with people over talking about music. So
I didn't realize that about you, except I think I read your bio on a WordPress because you were just recently at WordCamp, which you do a lot so speaking there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I ran into our friend Laura, which was funny.
Yes, that's so funny. It was such a small world thing.
So small. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Well, let's talk about business stuff. Like, who are your women, female, or just business entrepreneurial heroes? People you like to watch or inspired by?
Yeah, so that was the one question when you sent me the list of things we'd talk about that I was like really quite stumped on, and I was thinking like I shouldn't be stumped on that at this point, but like I don't know. I guess I never latched on specifically to any of the kind of big, more celebrity, famous type names that people would know as as someone that I follow religiously. I kind of follow different people at different times based on where I'm at in my business journey and what I'm struggling with the most. I'll kind of latch on to a book author or someone who I really admire who's got that thing down pat. But in general, I don't know. I'm just inspired by like all the little people that I see every day that are doing this, that are being an entrepreneur, especially women entrepreneur, especially if in tech and especially if young. I am just like the everyday people, not like the celebrity names that everyone would know. I'm just impressed with the everyday people. They're kind of my heroes. It's like they keep me going, because it's hard sometimes. It gets tiring and exhausting and complicated, and it's just at times I need a little boost and motivation and inspiration. And sometimes I get that from reading a business book by one of the big name people. But other times I see it in other people around me who are newer in their business journey and excited, or the reverse, they've been at it really long time and they're still going at it. And I'm just everyone, everyone who's doing this is my heroes.
That's great. That's a good answer.
That's a perfect answer. Now, what are you using in your office? You have a team. How are you guys staying connected? What are those programs you're using, or, apps, even personally, that you're like, I got to have this to make this business happen?
Sure. So we're a hybrid team. So we have an office. You can see we have an actual office, but only one of us, and it's actually not me, works full-time out of this office. So only our project manager is here every day, and so most days she's by herself. At times we have other people that work with us that are local and come and work together in the office, but really the office is mostly for meetings or for having a nice backdrop for things like this. So I actually work from home quite a bit, or on the road, because I do travel a lot. So most of the time I'm actually remote myself. And then the rest of our team is remote in various locations. They all work from home. So the tools that we can't live without are, if I had to pick them in order of priority, probably Slack first and foremost. Slack went down one day and we were like, how do we function in life? We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to talk to each other. Really had to think about, how do I get in touch with this person?
Where are all my notes? There was a funny tweet that happened on that day. I remember it, and it was like, every creative team officially is not doing work right now.
Yeah, I saw one was like fire in the background, like the end of the world apocalypse kind of thing. Like that was us that day. Because we've had it as a policy to not email each other, because email is so overwhelming as it is, just with all the partners and client emails that are constantly coming in. Like we made Slack our place to talk to each other. So unless we really need to forward a specific email that someone needs to see, we don't email each other. And we also try to respect each other's personal time, so we don't really text each other either. So Slack went down and we were like, how do we... What?
Right.
So Slack is really the glue that holds us together. We keep it pretty organized with different channels for different projects. Each client has their own channel, and then we've got other internal channels for different topics. And of course, the random channel where we share pictures of cats with pizza on their head, because
why not?
That other fun things like that. So yeah, Slack would be number one. As far as tasks and keeping track of everything goes, project management wise, we use Teamwork. We do all our time tracking in there as well. Big on time tracking. As a service-based company, I think it's really important. Actually, it's not a think thing. It's not an opinion. It is a fact that it's really important to make sure we're not working for free. Because
are you charging for time usually, or is it just so that you guys
know? Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Sometimes we do and sometimes we don't. But even if we're not technically charging the client on an hourly basis, I do backwards calculate the project fee and the hourly rate that we need to make for every working hour in order to stay in business. So that was a lot of math and a lot of years of refining that math to figure that out. And Coach Dave was very helpful with that. But I now know the number that's like, if we get paid less than this for all of our working hours, we won't be profitable. Or won't even break even if we go into that number. So it's very important to not work for free, basically. So we do Teamwork as our task management system to keep track of what exact steps need to be done on each project, but it's also our time tracking. We just track the time right on the task. So that's how we keep track of all of that. As far as sharing information, Google Drive and Google Docs, we're all enmeshed in that. We can't really live without that. All our spreadsheets are all shared through there, and Google Docs and Drive folders and everything is all in there. And let's see, what else do we use? Personally, I actually, even though most of our stuff is Google Drive and Doc related, I personally can't live without Evernote. Yeah, and once in a while I still use a handwritten notebook. If I really need to brainstorm something, I still actually use a physical notebook. But then I'm always forgetting and leaving it behind and not having it with me. So I have gotten pretty good at putting everything into Evernote, and I find it pretty handy because I can put screenshots, and I can if I took handwritten notes, I can take a picture and it'll actually scan and make the text searchable and whatnot. So Yeah, I think those are the main tool. I mean, we have a lot of industry tools that we use too for our SEO stuff, but as far as keeping us going. Oh, and we also use Google Hangout. Every morning we have a daily Scrum call where we get on for just like 15, 20 minutes and we just go around and say what we accomplished the day before, what we have on our plate today, and any questions we have about what we have on our plate today. And we also encourage everyone to say one thing they did good for themselves the day before. They don't have to share specifically what it is, but we like to encourage work-life balance. So make sure nobody's burning out completely and they're taking care of themselves. So they don't have to say specifically what it is. It's simple yes or no if they did something good for themselves the day before. But a lot of times we do share what we did to somebody. You know, one person may go to the gym, another went to the movies. You know, and it just makes for good, you know, kind of team building too. So I don't even remember how that started, but it was something that really stuck and we've been doing for a long time.
Do you guys do like a summit where everybody comes together once a year, since you guys are all kind of working?
Not on a regular basis, but we have done that. We've gotten everybody together. At least once it was everybody. Sometimes it's just pieces, depending upon what's going on. But there's definitely some value in that. I think, you know, especially in the beginning when someone's relatively new to the team, doing that at least once, I think is definitely valuable.
Yeah, I think the work from home thing is wonderful and we do it and there's so much value in it that we can see, you know, as we grow, continuing that, not necessarily trying to build a team in LA and a team in Philly, but there also you can lose, you know, you're working by yourself with your cat on your desk all day long. Like it can get hard. So I think a friend of ours that we did a Bitches in Business last season with, they have a nonprofit and all their team members are all over the world actually. And I think they do it quarterly. They go somewhere for like a 3-day, it's like part of their, like what they do as a company. And it's really invaluable for them. So we've always said that that's something that we would love to do as we grow. Quarterly seems like often, but maybe it's not. I mean, it feels like planning a quarterly trip, but maybe that's someone's job. I don't know.
Yeah, it's I'd love to do more of it, but it is expensive. So it's a balancing act. It's important and it's great and it's beneficial. It's also expensive. So we're very distributed. We're like Arizona, Canada, Georgia. You're like, we're not like, it's not quick, easy flights, you know.
Right.
Cool. Definitely. What would you say is your best advice for someone who's starting out? What's the best advice you could give to someone starting their company today?
Best advice. I'm not sure if it's good advice, but my top thing that comes to mind is like, brace yourself for a wild ride. But I mean that in an encouraging way. Like, you know, brace yourself. That is not always going to be easy. It's very exciting in the beginning. Like everything in the beginning seems to be like a win because everything's new. And, you know, you set a goal and you're really motivated and energetic. So you work really hard and you hit the goal. But then every time I realized, you know, we're several years in, every time you achieve one goal, it creates a whole new dynamic. And then you have a whole new different set of challenges, and then you set a goal to get over those challenges, you get to that, and then it's like another new set of challenges, another goal. So it's kind of this constant process of, you know, achieving one goal and then realizing that that goal achievement in and of itself brings a new set of challenges. So and that can actually get discouraging at times. You know, it's hard to feel like you're making progress when every single time you get to where you wanted to be, something else happens. But like, that's the nature of it. That's what you're signing up for. It's not always going to be, you know, peaches and cream and sunshine and roses and rainbows and unicorns, which it can feel like that in the beginning. And it's kind of hard to get the reality check. I guess it's like a relationship. It's like dating or something. Like everything's, you know, the puppy love stage in the beginning, everything is exciting and wonderful and everyone seems like they're perfect. And you see everything through rose-colored
glasses. And then you get your tax bill.
And then you get your tax bill. Exactly.
I saw this thing. I'm in this Facebook ads group and I saw somebody post. It was really funny. And he said, "Hey guys, I'm so excited. I left my corporate job where I was making a lot of money to start my own business. And now I'm making less money and working harder. This is awesome."
Yes.
And that was what the post was. And I was like, that's a thing. That's a reality for a long time, maybe forever. I don't know.
Right. And that's fine at first. It's like that guy was obviously fine with it at that point in time because it's so exciting in the beginning. But I think it's important to kind of brace yourself and have a realistic expectation that it's going to get really hard at times, and that's okay. And over time, you'll learn to trust yourself. That in the beginning, the hard things are really super scary, but then I've found that I've started to trust myself more over time. So no matter how scary or challenging something seems, I got through the last scary, challenging thing, so I'll figure out how to get through this one too. And just recognizing that there will be ups and there will be downs makes it not such a shocker or demotivator when things go down. It's like, all right, this is part of the game. Got to roll with it. Get to the other side, and then we will have better days too. So I think it's important to have realistic perspective and expectations for the entrepreneurship journey.
Yeah, and it's important to have relationships with other business owners, because I think they're ones that, Nikki and I we have a benefit of having a partner. So that, obviously it's good to have conversations outside of our partnership too, because we're both feeling the same stressors. So somebody else outside of it can be like, it's not that big of a deal, or it is, but that is such an important thing, I think.
Yes, and having an advisor, if you can, like Coach Dave, is incredibly helpful. So yeah, talking to people internally helps. I don't technically have a business partner, but I do. My project manager is so involved in the day-to-day of everything that she really gets the business. So I do have someone I can talk with. And two who really gets like all of our moving pieces. And then Coach Dave is an outside advisor. Also, actually, I have kind of mastermindish type sessions, nothing formal, but with friendly competitors. I'm really friendly with some of the other local SEO companies, and we get along. We each have slightly different types of clients that we target, and we realize there's plenty of business to go around. So we actually refer to each other sometimes too, if the project's a better fit for one versus the other. But we'll get together and we'll go out for a couple cocktails, and we'll just, shoot the shit over what we are dealing with and struggling with at the time. And there's nothing like, I've been in formal mastermind groups where people get together with other business owners to go around the table and talk about their business challenges. And not that that's not helpful, but there's nothing like someone who knows your exact type of business inside and out. So I'm all for, becoming friendly with competitors and buddying up with them and helping each other out. There's plenty of business to go around, and you have to have a certain degree of trust, and don't do it with just anyone, but vet some people out locally that are competitors that you can go have a drink with or coffee with or whatever, play tennis with, anything, any shared interest, and you can learn from each other and lean on each other. That's been hugely valuable to me as well, getting through the tough spots.
Yeah, I think just having anyone that we've known who also works in this industry has been super helpful to even just give us ideas. I think that's really great advice, that people need to build those internal networks of competitors and friends and people who work in your industry.
Yeah, I don't see the need to be afraid of or, defensive of or just antagonistic towards or anything negative towards competitors. It's just, unless they're really screwing the clients over, which I do know some of those that are technically competitors that I won't associate myself with because of that. But that aside, competitors should be of a valuable, an asset. Relationships with competitors can be an asset more than I think a lot of people realize.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Cool. Well, as we wrap, why don't you tell us where to find you online? We talked about in the beginning that you have your SEO services, and then you have this stealth. I'm going to say it wrong, so you tell us about it. Where to find that, where to follow you, because Twitter is obviously a big place for you, and then we'll make sure to link it in the notes here.
Sure. Okay, so our websites are pamannmarketing.com and stealthsearchandanalytics.com. And the difference, to recap, is both do three things: SEO, PPC, analytics. But through Pam Ann Marketing, we work directly with clients who want to take their search and analytics strategies to the next level. So typically the kind of business that's been around for a while, they've got the basics taken care of, but they really want to take things to the next level now in any one of those three categories. So we would work with them directly through Pam Ann Marketing, or through Stealth Search and Analytics. We work with other marketing agencies that want to add these capabilities to their team without having to hire employees for it. So that's the stealth side of things. So Twitter, we're on there as both on Twitter. My primary kind of personal one is the Pam Ann Marketing Twitter handle. So at Pam Ann Marketing, you can find me there. You could always email us through either website, also Facebook, Instagram, or all of those other places as well.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Pam. This was wonderful. We always love learning from you. And obviously, hopefully, you watching learn a thing or two about SEO. And if you don't know, just like follow her webinar. Or do you have any webinars coming up? I think we wanted to ask that.
Oh, we
Any
do. Well, off the top of my head, I think the date for the next one is May 19th.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's May 19th. The announcement's coming out shortly. It's going to be with Lisa of Web Dev Studios, which is a pretty prominent company in the WordPress space. So we're really excited about that. And it's going to be about marrying SEO with good web design, how to do
Wow.
both of those together.
That's
So that's going to be a good one.
Sounds
We're also going to do another one soon, date not set yet, about the whole page speed thing, because it's such an important thing. The algorithm update's coming in July. So we're going to definitely do at least a free webinar, and are thinking about putting together an in-depth course as well for helping people tackle that monster.
cool.
For the July update. I'm also speaking, if anyone happens to be in New York City, I'm speaking in New York City on Tuesday at Spark Design Professionals about how to combine SEO and UX to maximize the ROI of a website. And then next week I'm speaking in Chicago at WordCamp Chicago, and in June at WordCamp Orange County. So if anyone happens to be in any of those places, you can sign up for event notifications on our website if you want to come to any of our events, whether it be a webinar or an in-person thing. We can sign up for emails at pamannmarketing.com.
Cool. Great. Well, thank you so much, Pam.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you guys about this.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back soon with our next episode. Have an awesome day.